Spiritforged finally came out, and hey, some cards tanked and some cards are making a meteoric rise. So let's look at the market now that we have a few days into the Spiritforged release. Let's get into it. Our last Market Watch video, we're talking about how you should not be buying any cards during the pre-release weekend because they're going to be over-costed. And now I want to look at some of those cards that we talked about to see how they changed. Now I'm going to tell you, there's some cards that took some massive L's, massive crashes, which was expected. You shouldn't be buying during the pre-release weekend. And then we're also showing some cards that are actually starting to rise in value, which is actually really exciting. And it might be an indicator of what the US meta is going to be looking at. So let's go ahead and go into TCG Player and let's look at the market right now. All right, so let's first start off with some of the Spiritforged cards that we're going to be looking at lately here. So starting with Ezreal. Ezreal is needed for the Ezreal deck. It's actually one of the decks that's been gaining some popularity. Now, during the pre-release weekend, this card was pretty expensive. If people were buying it, they were probably overpaying it for, to be honest. But we showed from the initial hype. We didn't see the first sale starting to comes in around $130. This card is currently sitting at about $60, which is actually not bad. Market shows $69. This market price is always going to be changing, guys, because remember, it's going to be based on the average, based on multiple days of sales. So as more days go into since the release, we're going to start seeing these market values probably starting to solidify. Probably by next Friday, we should start seeing those card values solidify. But what will change is what happens this weekend during the Bologna regional qualifier. We could see some of those certain cards shift. But I'm looking forward to see what the European meta is going to be looking at. Is it going to be matching the Chinese meta? And who is ultimately going to win? Because that might be giving a big indicator of what's going to happen with the Las Vegas regional qualifiers. And that's actually going to give you an idea of what might be selling and not selling when it comes to the market moving forward. $60, I think, is a pretty good price point. I would like to see him to be a little bit lower personally. Excuse me, I'd like to see a lot of the champion units that are epics closer to that $50 tier, because, you know, we all have seen that one red champion unit that's expensive, and I think it's gone up. We'll talk about her in a minute. But moving on to Defiant Dance, this is one of the cards that surprisingly has took a pretty big drop off to around $40, but it's starting to spike back up slightly. The Defiant Dance right now, we're looking at a market price of $55, but we have a $46 near mint right now. I believe that is going to be, English. The Chinese one is running around 40. So remember, guys, you can buy the Chinese cards. I personally am not a fan of having the Chinese cards in my deck. I am planning to build Aurelia, and unfortunately, I pulled 0 Defiant Dance. I did luckily pull showcase a set that I might be planning to use to potentially make a multi-trade deal. My goal is, we'll talk about the set. If I can get it to the point where I can get it, basically sell it, where I can buy 3 Defiant Dances, that's my goal. I think I'm almost already there. I don't want to buy Defiant Dance at 46. I would like it to buy around $40. And that way, if I could sell my set for 120, 150, somewhere around there, I'm for sure getting my 3 Defiant Dance that I need for the Aurelia deck. Right now, Defiant Dance, I think it's okay. We know that Aurelia is going to be one of the top meta leaders in the meta. And it looks like the market is kind of was pushing away from her a little bit, but I think people are bouncing back up based on the Defiant Dance. If we could get Defiant Dance around $40, I think that's a great time to buy. Now, Arise, this one is the interesting one. This was as low as $18, and now it's up to $38. So it essentially doubled, which is crazy. I think some people started seeing the Zir deck, and they were like, okay. So I think people started understanding, okay, I don't have to play Aurelia, I don't have to play Draven, I don't have to play a Fiora. I can play Azir and may have a shot. So I think that's a big reason why we're seeing this sudden surge. The day of the release on the 13th, this was an $18 card. So if you picked this one up at $18, you did an excellent job, because right now you could have basically doubled up your money. Moving on to the Spinning Axe, this one has actually fallen off. Remember during the up to pre-release, this thing was selling for $90, guys. And this is one of the cards that I said do not buy during the pre-release weekend, because this card is going to drop in value, and this is a clear indication that it has. It's $41 market value. Right now we're looking at $36 on TCG Player for it shipped. That I think is an excellent cost. If you're still trying to hold out, I don't know how much cheaper this card's going to get. I could see this maybe dropping close to that $30 marker. I don't think it's dropping any below $30. The only way that's going to happen if we're starting to see Draven not make top 8s. If Draven does not make top 8s, this card will fall. But unfortunately, I think Draven's such a very good and efficient deck, you're not going to see this spinning act drop any further. Aurelia, here's another example. Her champion unit also has kind of dropped a little bit since the pre-release, before the release weekend came. During pre-release weekend, this card was going for like $60 or something, close to $60. And we've almost hit I think the at first confirmed sale was at $54, $55. So we did get some of those sales. Unfortunately, you guys that did buy that, that's an L on your side. Because look at this card, its market value is $25, so we're looking at around $50. That's a 56% decline. There's currently one for $21. Shipping is 99 cents, so it makes it $22. Again, those people that are playing the Aurelia deck, you only use one Aurelia. It's a very little bit units, a lot of tricks, and a lot of gear. So I think this is a direct result of how that deck runs. If the Aurelia deck ran the playset of Aurelia Fervents, then I think this card will be a little bit more expensive. We might be looking at around $30, $35, but because it usually typically runs run in most of the decks that we've seen in the China meta, kind of tells us why this is kind of sitting around $20. I think this is an excellent buy at about $20. So if you are going to be playing Aurelia, I think this is the card you definitely should be scooping up. Now, Draven Audacious, this is another card that we talked about during the pre-release that I actually think I ended up getting wrong. So this one we were seeing before the release was sitting around $26, $25. I did think this card was actually going to drop. It did drop down to around $15, $16, but it's actually spiked back up, and it's closer back to the original amount of $25. So again, this Draven is used in the various purple builds. Purple Draven does not run this one, but Ezreal does. So that might be part of the reason why we're seeing that kind of decline. I think the market, the United States market, we're definitely seeing, from what I can tell from the way the card values are, there's going to be more people buying into Aurelia, more people buying into Ezreal, more people buying into Fiora, and not so many buying into Draven. And that might just be because of the fact of the changes that we saw in the previous regional qualifiers. We saw Kai'Sa still doing well. We saw Annie doing well. We saw Zir getting second place. So I think that's why we're seeing the decline in Dravens and all of the other heroes, kind of legends popping up. Now, moving into the Aurelia Fervent overnumbered. Yo, this card has gone up in price. This was sitting originally at $180. I think the lowest sell price shows $160. And this thing is sitting at a market price right now of $255. That's a 41% increase. And to me, again, this is now that indication of why I'm thinking in the United States meta. Because again, for you guys who are overseas, TCG Player is strictly for the United States. I know in Europe you guys have card market, but this gives me kind of an indication that the United States players are looking at Aurelia as their competitive decks. They're looking at Fiora. They're looking at Azir. And they already have Annie and the Kai'Sa, so they just had to make those updates. So that's why I'm thinking this card is actually occurring. And not to mention it's a beautiful art. Let's not get it. It's a great art. For those that actually want to have, since the Aurelia deck only runs one Fervent, this is a great card to have as your champion unit, because you have the alternate arts and stand out, make your deck bling out a little bit. I think this card will probably stay around this price point. Now, the change that's going to happen is what happens in Bologna and what happens in Las Vegas. If Bologna, the winner of it all, is an Aurelia, this card is going to go up. It's just hands down guaranteed. Now, on the other end of that, if the Aurelia is not in the top 8, this card could potentially go down. So this is where one of the tricky ones is if you have one and you're not going to be playing Aurelia, it might be a good time to trade. If you're looking to get one, this is going to be the hard part. This is when you really got to make that decision of, do you need to go in and sell it to get to the cards you want to play, or trade it for what you need, right? So if you're going to be playing, my general recommendation is this TCGs are to have fun. You're not really going to try to make some money off of it, right? Because at the end of the day, it's cardboard. And I'm just a random guy on YouTube giving you my personal advice of what I would do. If I'm not going to be playing Aurelia and I'm going to be playing, let's say, for example, I want to play my Kaisa deck, I'm going to trade this to get the cards I need to fill out my Kaisa deck for the changes, or any deck or Sat deck, whatever you play. You want to probably get rid of it so you can get the gear, because the whole point of this game is to play games and have fun, right? So don't try to hold on to thinking it might be going up in value or down in value, because you just never know. Like I said, during the pre-release, we knew those card prices were going to go down because the scarcity was causing the prices to be high. But for this, no, I'm not thinking. I think you should honestly trade it or sell it to get you to the cards you need to have so you can play your games and enjoy this game, because this is what Riftbound is about, having fun. Moving on, the Aurelia overnumbered for the Legend. Again, this one actually did see a little bit of a dip, but it seems to be settling around that $190 price point, which I think is pretty okay for having one of those top competitive Legends to be around. I would like to see anywhere from 150 to 200. I think that's perfectly fine. You can play the regular rare Legend and you'll be just fine. This just gives you another way to bling out your deck. And then moving on to Draven, we're looking at his overnumbered. He's currently sitting at $182 for the market, but we do show a recent sell of $233. So that could be on the rise. Again, the Chinese I ignore because that's $130. But we just show a current listing of $225 here. We do have other listings at $190, so I'm not sure why this one's not listed, but this one is up here. But might be something going on with TCG Player. Again, for $225, I think that's a little expensive for Draven, especially if we're seeing such a drop-off that I'm seeing on his purchases of his Axes, which is a signature spell. To me, makes it seem to be a little bit over. Now, if Draven does end up winning Bologna and ends up winning Las Vegas Regional Qualifier, then I do expect this to be around $200 to $250. I think right now it's a little too expensive for me to buy. I wouldn't buy it at $225. I actually bought one. I'm not kidding. From a local when he was sitting. The last sale that I saw on TCG Player was $165, and then the local gave me a deal for $140. So I bought my Draven for $140, which is an excellent buy at that point. For $225, if you're going to be maining Draven, I just think it's a little too expensive, but that's just my opinion, guys. Quick shout out to Heavy Played. I just partnered with them, and honestly, using their Deckbox Max and their Dicebox Max, and I got to tell you, the magnetic system is actually legit. You can snap multiple boxes together and they just lock. They're awesome. The deck box also feels very premium, and I love the little window to show off my League of Legends leader or my Star Wars Unlimited leaders as well. If you want high-end TCG gear, you want to go ahead and use Heavy Play. You can use my code TCGHQ to get 10% off your order, or just use the link that's in the description. Now back to the video. Now let's move on to some of the Origins cards, because there's some bangers. There's some bangers that I not expect to see the US market really pivot to. And we'll start off with this set, the Champion Unit. This is going to be the showcase. This card was originally closer to around, like at one point, the very bottom of this card was around $90. And this thing has shot up. Right now, the current market price is $128, but this is understated because the most recent sales, one of the most recent sales is $180. We've seen sales for $165. We've seen sales for $170. So this it's actually rising stock, right? And depending on what happens in this next 2 weekends will really determine this price point of this card. Now, moving on to the Fiora overnumbered. This one is actually quite shocking to me that The legend overnumbered is around $120. It's slightly gone up with the most recent posting here at $129, but if we look at the last sale was $118. I actually thought that Fiora would have been closer to $150 legend at $121. That to me is, I think, a fairly good price point. If you're going to be maining the Fiora, I do think at this price point, if you can get it for that $120, it's a good deal. If you can get it for $100, that's the real deal there. So I think this is a very good card. I really like her legend ability. I like the baited hook version of this deck. This is one I'm going to be looking at. It might be one that I might trade my set champion unit showcase for to get this and maybe a Defiant Dance. We'll see how that price point narrows out, because I'm definitely going to be playing Fiora, and I would like to have that legend for $120. I might pull that trigger. Seal of Discord. I don't know, guys, if y'all remember this one. Someone posted this for $1,000. I was like, no way. And then they got undercut to like $200. But right now, the market value is $150 with the current listing of $140, and the last one sold for $173. So I think the Seal of Discord, we know that Miracle Draven runs it. People that like to bling out the deck. $140, I think that's a pretty fair value of it. Why? Because we got to look at the regular Seal of Discord. Regular Seal of Discord is currently running for $55, which is market price about $57, $58. So to have the showcase version to be 3x, about 2.5 to 3x, I think that's the perfect multiplier. I don't think overnumbered should ever be 2 to 3x the prices of the card. Now, there's going to be a caveat to that one. It's going to be with set. Set right now, we're currently seeing about $50 for it. He's taken a mega climb recently. He was at one point, I was looking at buying him because I needed one more. He was closer to $22, and now he's closer to $50. He's gone up 150%. It is insane how much this card has gone up over the past 30 days. Again, just this tells me that the United States market and the main people that are playing this game are choosing Fiora as one of the legends they're planning to build. Now, moving on, Kaisa. Well, she's reared her ugly head again, and she's actually gone up in price. She was at one point closer down to the low 70s, and she's market price right now $85, $86. This is one champion unit that I did wish to drop further. I would have wanted it to be around that $62 range, $65, and I was completely wrong on this one. So I did not see this one to go up. I figured by the time we get to Spiritforged or Kaisas, the supply, those top tier decks like the Andes and Dravens, we would already have them. But unfortunately, this tells me a lot more players were getting into the game, and they came in and bought this card up, which caused the price to go up. Moving on, Baited Hook. This one's is exciting. This card is currently sitting at market price at $55 with a current listing of $50. This thing has had a meteoric rise in the last 30 days, plus 180%. Guys, you could have bought Baited Hook for $18 in the beginning of like middle of January, and now you would have to pay $50 for it. That is insane. But we know why the Fiora deck runs the Baited Hook, and I personally, that's one of the decks I'm playing, and it's a lot of fun. And then the last one I do want to outline is Time Warp. This card has actually started seeing a slight rise. This card was sitting around market price right now is at $80. The current lowest listings around 73, but this card has gone up about 57% for the last 30 days. But this one leading up to the release was sitting around closer to around $60. It went up to 80, which to me I was not expecting was that. This is another card that I did not think the cost would go up. I was really thinking it was going to stay pretty flat around that $65 marker. Let's talk about this one other card I forgot. And this is a rare, and this is one of the ones that we talked about that I specifically said you should not buy during pre-release weekend. And it's this Draven, the rare. People bought, okay, no one bought it at the pre-release price of $50. Thank goodness. But several people bought this card between $24, $50, and $26. And that to me, I when our last video I said that's just too expensive. Wait till the Spiritforged comes out. is going to drop in price. We did see it dropping in price leading up to release weekend. Right before release weekend, this was around $22. 20 people paid $22 for this card. And guess what? This is a $1 card. Current listing as low as 83 cents. So this is another prime example, guys. If you're new to TCGs or you're new to Riftbound, why you do not want to buy cards during a pre-release, because scarcity is the problem and it's going to cause the price to go high. So people that paid $20 plus for this card, you overpaid, right? Because the immediate when the card released, February 13th, this thing crashed down to almost $2. Now it's sitting at $1. All right, y'all. But that's everything for today's Market Watch. That's kind of what we want to say, just to summarize everything. Do not buy anything during pre-release weekend because, look, you guys saw clearly the crashes of a lot of the cards. But there are some cards that surprised us that we did notice that the prices gone up, and some of them I got wrong. For example, Kaisa. I was not expecting the Kaisa card to go up. I was really hoping this card would stay pretty static. Same with Time Warp. But we also saw the rise of the United States is really liking Fiora by seeing the cost of baited hook and the set champion unit going up. But we're also seeing the rise of Azir because we're seeing the Azir signature spell going up in price. So those are indicators that the United States market is really liking those legends, potentially going into the Las Vegas regional qualifiers. Now, our next video that I'll be dropping on Friday, we'll be looking at if you're a competitive player and you're going to be playing competitively for this, whether you're going to Las Vegas or not, or just going to be competitive within your local, we're going to talk about the top 20 cards that you should be buying in Spiritforged for your competitive decks. So stay tuned to that, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.